In this video, we are going to be looking at corridors, adding corridor extensions and offsets, and targeting alignments for knuckles. So we'd have a knuckle here, or a cul-de-sac. And if we have time in this video, we'll also look at the intersection tool. If not, that'll be another video. So when we design a corridor, first we need to have a road center line. So we've designed our alignments for our three major roads here. So we have one going east-west, we have our subdivision road, and we also have our cul-de-sac alignments. Now when I zoom in on the ends of these, they are touching the other alignment. Now there's a display issue here, but they are perpendicular to the other alignments, and we'll need that when we go to design our intersections. So we have our alignments laid out, and we've also created our vertical baselines. So we have, and I know I have a couple extra profiles in here, but we have our main road, or our main road here. We have our subdivision road, and we also have our cul-de-sac road here. So we've designed horizontal and vertical, and now we can go about creating a corridor. Now this is a little more in depth than creating a highway corridor. There's a few more things going on. There's also some things we don't really need to worry about in a residential road. Super elevation will be one of those things we do not have to worry about. The speeds are low enough. We just don't need to super elevate the road, and people are generally not going 50, 60 kilometers an hour around some of these tight corners. So we'll start this off, and we're going to end up making 3 or 4 different corridor models. I like to keep my intersections separate, as they add quite a bit of information in your corridor. And if we keep them separate, we can still paste everything together at the end, and it will work just fine. It's a workflow thing. It's drawing stability and just trying to make your drawing work faster. So again, we have our alignments, we have our profiles, and I've gone ahead and I've already designed the vertical baselines here, and I see there's a issue that happened with this one when I deleted some stuff, but we can take care of that. So first things first, we need to make a corridor of our main road. Actually, before that, we need assemblies. So we'll start off with our 2 basic assemblies. We have our primary road, which is the one going east-west, and our residential road. So these 2 right here. And those will come from the design guidelines provided by the city. Our primary road has 2 lanes each direction. Our residential road's a little bit smaller, has sidewalks in certain locations. So you'll go to the city guidelines and design those. So we have our 2 assemblies, and don't worry about these other ones yet. So we'll go to corridors, create corridor, and we're just going to name this residential road. Keep the default style. Our alignment, we need a typical alignment or a starting alignment, and then we can add things to it afterwards. So I'm just going to choose the east-west road down here. So my 64th Avenue extension, my 64th Avenue design profile. Now again, naming things, keep things named properly. So I've named this 64th Avenue design. I know this is my design profile. I want it to follow this. This one will be my existing ground profile. So I'm choosing design here. On my assembly, my primary collector assembly. And I don't want to target surfaces at this point, as we will set that up in our surface grading at a later time when we do our lot grading. So we'll leave the set baseline and region parameters selected. It won't create a corridor yet until I click OK. So I've clicked OK, and here's my starting corridor. So my 64th Avenue extension, that has highlighted my road east-west. This is what it's going to build. Let's go ahead and add these other 2 roads in, and then we'll go and start removing needed areas. So the first thing I'm going to click on is add a baseline. This one I'm going to name residential road. residential road. baseline type, alignment and profile, my alignment. I'm going to choose the Taradale Way one. Actually, let's name this Taradale Way. So I'm going to click OK. And it's added a secondary baseline, and then when I click on it, you can see it's highlighted this alignment as well. My vertical baseline, I already have a Taradale Way design, so I'm going to click OK. The next thing I have to do is right-click on the Taradale Way and add a region. So I need to add a corridor region to this in order to build it. Region name, I'll just leave blank for now. And the assembly I want to use is the residential street one. So my road east-west is a primary collector. My internal roads here are residential streets. So we've added Taradale Way here now. Let's add in our cul-de-sac. So I'm going to add another baseline. And I believe, yeah, Taradale Place. And we'll click OK. And again, I've had my Taradale Place design. I'm going to right click, add another region, and choose my residential street. So I have my 3 roads in right now. And if I move this out of the way and I click on them, there's Taradale Place, Taradale Way, and 64th Avenue. Now I'm going to set all frequencies, and again, be careful with this setting, as the more frequent modeling you have, the slower your drawing will perform and will update. But I'm going to set it to 5 right now, just to give me a little bit more of an accurate model. Feel free to leave it at 10. You can set it to 1 if you want, but you might be sitting there for a few minutes while things rebuild. So I'm going to click OK now, and we're going to see what Civil 3D creates for us. So click OK, click Rebuild the Corridor, and this is what we're left with. So my road east-west, and then my road internal roads. But if I click on my corridor model, you can see that it's building the residential roads into my main road. Now, if I go to make a surface from this, it will be all messed up. It's not going to look nice, and there's going to be glitches, and you could possibly cause problems. So part of the big thing with modeling a residential corridor is adding more regions under your 3 main headings. So 64th Avenue east-west, we're going to have 3 regions here, and we're just taking care of a part later on for when we go to add in our intersections. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller right now so we can see everything. And we're going to have to concentrate on the start station and the end station. Oh, what happened there? So the start station and the end station. Now, we want the road to build from approximately from here to, we're going to go maybe 40-50 meters on either side of the intersections. So we're not going to build a road where this intersection is going to be. We'll take care of that after with the intersection tool. And the same over here. So my start station will be 0. My end station, I'm going to use a station picker here. And I'm going to just click approximately there. So to the west of the intersection a little bit. And again, station 163, give or take a little bit. Now, to keep things organized in my drawing, I'm going to rename this 64th Avenue Northeast West Section. So this is the west section of the road that will be built. Now, to model the rest of it, so as you see when I click on this, it only is going to model this. If I hit apply and rebuild, you'll see. We now need to tell it to model in the center section here. So I'm going to insert region after, so right click on 64th Ave Northeast West section. Insert region after. I'm going to set it to primary collector, and I'm going to name this one 64th Ave Northeast Center Section. So the more you can do to keep yourself organized in your drawing, the faster you're going to draft. You're going to know what you're clicking on. You're going to know when you're clicking on it. If you don't name anything, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to figure stuff out. So 64th Avenue Northeast Center section, primary collector, we'll click OK. And Civil 3D has gone and said, okay, we see that this station ends at 163,793. We'll start this one off at 163,793. But we don't want it to do that. We want it to model on the right-hand side a bit. So I'm going to select the station picker again. And I'm going to drop it approximately here. And again, we'll clean all this up after when we get our intersections done. And my end station, station picker, I'm going to go approximately here. So let's add in the east section now. So if we click on here, we're building that. If we click on there, it hasn't built anything yet, but let's apply and rebuild. And it's not highlighting it for some reason, but you see it popped in there. Let's add our last section in. So we're going to insert another region after. Primary collector, rename it, 64th Ave Northeast East section. Then we'll click OK. Again, Civil 3D has taken the end station and just said, okay, there should be a road here, but we don't want it to build a road yet. So station picker, we'll select right there. So let's change all our frequencies. So these ones have gone back to 10. If you want, set them back to 5. And then we'll hit OK. We'll rebuild the corridor. So we have now gone and turned this south road in to 3 separate pieces, but they're all in the same corridor. They're controlled by the same baseline. They're controlled by the same assembly. So we've gone and done that for this road. Let's now do it for this road. And I'm going to go and take care of a couple things beforehand that I know we need to worry about a little bit later. So our road over here, we'll have to trim it around our knuckles. We'll have to trim it around the intersection. We'll have to trim it around this knuckle. We'll have to bring these two back a little bit. So select your corridor, right click, corridor properties. So that is what I've called Taradale Way, and it's kind of hard to see on here unless I select this, but this is the road we want to modify. So my start station, I want it to be, again, station picker, approximately there. Now my end station for this one, again, station picker, I want to zoom in and I want to select the end of my knuckle arc. So let me just click OK for now. And if I click on my road edge, the end of my knuckle arc here, the outgoing arc, that is where I want it to end. We need to apply a different assembly, or 2 assemblies actually, for the actual knuckle. So back into corridor properties, and we're going to do this a couple more times as we do the other knuckles. So this is Taradale Way West, just to keep yourself organized. I want to insert a region after, and again, Taradale Way North, but it's the west section. And you're going to see why I'm naming these things here shortly as this window gets more and more and more populated. I want it to be a residential street as well. And I'll click OK. And for my station picker, I'm going to pick the other end of the arc. So we have an arc here, we have a larger arc, and we have a smaller arc. So I'm going to pick the end of this other arc. And then ending station picker, I know we need to break it around the intersection, so I'm going to break it in here somewhere. And again, around the intersections we can clean it up afterwards, so don't worry too much about the station right now. I'm going to insert an additional region after, name it Taradale Way North East section. Set it back for residential street. Click OK. My station picker, I'm going to pick on the right-hand side somewhere. My end station, we're going to set to the beginning of this arc. So the initial arc again. So we have 2 knuckles here that we need to worry about. Again, insert another region after. Taradale Way East. We'll set that for Residential Street. We'll click OK. Station picker for the start station. We're going to select the arc going out. And the final station, we don't want it to build into the road down south, so we'll select approximately there. So we'll set all frequencies again. We'll go to 5. And again, Civil 3D will default to 10. Whatever your CAD lead is set up, it'll default that too. We'll click OK. We'll click OK. We'll rebuild. So my corridor is now in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces if you want to look at it that way, but it's still all one corridor. It's still all one object, and it's all building off that one window. So let's change this cul-de-sac one a slightly different way. So if we click on things, and again, be careful when you're grip editing stuff. If we click on the object, we see some grips here. Now these correspond with what's in that window. So I can select this grip and I can bring it down a little bit. So I want this to build maybe to there. And again, on the bottom one, if I want to click on the grip, same with the knuckles. I want this to end at the end of this green arc. Now again, be careful when using snaps. As we see, that didn't quite work. So I'm going to try it again. Go to the end point of this green line. So these are where the arcs for our knuckles and our cul-de-sacs end. So that is the last time you'll see, if you want to think of it this way, this part of this road section. After that arc, your road is going to start getting wider, and we need to perform some additional commands in order to do that. So we got our road sections here. Let's save our drawing. In fact, you should save it quite often, being first time through this. So once we have our drawing saved, the way we need to handle our cul-de-sacs and our knuckles is slightly different. So when we go through a knuckle, and we'll start with the knuckle over here, I'll run all the commands the one time, and then I've got the other 2 already generated for me. So we have our west knuckle here. We need to apply a corridor target is what it's called. So we need to have our assembly follow a different baseline for this so we can build the road properly. So if I zoom in, I click on this green line. This is my edge of road. My corridor stops here. My corridor starts again here. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a polyline. So I'm going to have my polyline follow this. So I've snapped to the end of the green line. I want to arc with the second point, and I want to snap to the mid, and then I want to snap to the end of the first arc. And again, second point, midpoint of this arc, snap to the end. And we'll do that a third time. Second point, mid, end. So I've got my polyline. I'm going to hit escape. If I click on it, I now have one polyline instead of the long one that's along here. So one polyline here. Now we need to turn this into an alignment. Well, why do we have to do that now? We need to tell the corridor to build an assembly along here. So we need to define a horizontal and a vertical. So as you see, I have my 3 main alignments here. I also have 2 additional ones here. So this is for my cul-de-sac. This is for my northeast knuckle. Let's build one for the west. So direction 100% matters when you are building these. Your alignment should try to go the same direction as your main road alignment. So station 0 down here, increasing up here. We go to station 200, for example. Your station should be 0 here, come up around the corner, and end at about 30, maybe 40, whatever it happens to be. So we're going to, alignments, create alignment from a polyline. I'm going to select the polyline. I'm going to make sure to select the polyline that I just drew and traced over top. So I'm going to hit enter. And even though I drew it in a north direction, Civil 3D for some reason has flipped it around and is pointing south. So this is how we can tell if our alignment's going the right direction. Knowing that 0 is down here and it increases in station to the north, I know this needs to be reversed. So I will reverse that alignment. So just hit R, enter. Now again, name things as descriptively as you can. We only have 2 knuckles in this project, so I'm going to name this west knuckle. Type, we'll leave it for center line. Start station is OK 0. Remember, no sites for alignments. Center line, it'll layer it for us. We'll deselect add curves, and we want to erase the existing entity, so we don't want it to build this. We don't want it to put curves as we've already done that. So I'm going to click OK. And I now see I have an alignment starting at 0. It goes around the corner and ends at station 44. So there's our horizontal. Let's quickly create a vertical. So profiles, create from surface. I want my west knuckle. I want existing ground. And make sure it's set to the existing ground style. So click on the style button here. Existing ground. Okay. We will draw in profile view now. And we've already done this a few times, so I'm going a little bit faster. I'm going to name this west knuckle. Just west knuckle for this one. And then I'm going to set it to 10 times vertical, 20 meter station interval. And then create profile view. So I'm going to place this just beside these other two. And it's drawn the existing ground for me. Now, when we design a road, we need to be able to tie into the design elevations. So we don't have a surface built for this yet. So let's go into our corridor properties and define a surface. So select your corridor, right-click corridor properties, surfaces, tab. We want to add a data link. So top left corner, create a corridor surface. Specify code, we have to make sure to click the top button to have it build it. Now, we're not going to add a boundary because our corridor is very segmented and it will probably only build a surface around this section. So, back again under the surfaces tab, residential road, we'll just name it residential road. And I'm fine with the style of being 0.5 and 0.1 for now. We can clean it up later. So again, surfaces, just name it residential road. Make sure to add in the top column. We'll click OK. And we'll click rebuild. So this has made a little bit of a mess for us. And the reason it's happening over here is because part of my profile is missing. But I can clean that up later. So we now have a surface here. Again, yes, it's a bit of a mess, but what this means now is that we can go into our profile, the one we just made, so our west knuckle. We're gonna add that design surface in so we can see where those road edges are. So we're gonna go profiles, create profile from surface, choose our west knuckle again, add in our residential road surface. We'll just leave it for, actually let's set it to groundwater so we can tell the difference. Again, we're just using this temporarily to know where to put our design line. So I've set that for groundwater. I'm just going to click OK now. So our existing ground is up here, but if we zoom in down here, this is where our design line is. Can I snap to the end of this properly? Yes. So knowing this, we have our curb down here, it comes up, and then it's just building whatever in the middle, and we have a curb line down here. So what we need to tie into are the ends of these blue lines over here. So again, I'm going to create a profile by layout. I want to draw a profile on my west knuckle. I'm going to name it West Knuckle Design. Don't worry about any design criteria. We'll click OK. And it'll bring up our West Knuckle Design tools. Now when we're drawing these, as the distance of 44 meters is greater than the distance it would be along the center line, we still need to ensure that there's positive flow. So we may have to put in a low point, we may have to put in a high point, as long as water's not pooling and staying in the knuckle. So we can start off with just drawing a temporary line for now. We can add in points afterwards. So I'm going to draw just plain old tangents for now. I'm going to snap to the end of this curb line. So this is what I want to tie into. If I hover over here, it doesn't look like there's very much slope, but we'll find out here in a moment. And I'm going to snap to the end of that. I'm going to hit enter. So I've defined a one slope line. So let's go ahead and add some labels to that. So select it, right click, edit labels, lines, profile grades 2.5 is fine. Okay. So this is currently sitting at 0.16%. So there's a couple things we can do. We can add a high point, which again, you have to pay attention to where your surface is grading, but my entire design comes down. I've designated this to be a low point. So again, when you do your main corridor, pay attention to what's going on. So I'm going to just set this, I'm going to create a low point in here. So we're going to add in another PVI. So select the insert PVI. I'm going to click right about here. And then I'm going to hit enter. So again, we can fix this afterwards, but I have minus 1.48, down to 1.75. That's a little too steep for what I want. So I'm going to come into, again, the same window. We'll select the profile grid view, which brings up this window over here. Make it a little smaller so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to change my grade out. So let's go minus 0.75 for now and see what happens. So it goes minus 0.75 down, 1.04 up. So as long as we can keep it steeper than 0.5%, minus 0.5 or 0.5, that is enough on concrete to ensure positive flow. So I'm going to leave these values for now. I'm going to build that section of the knuckle. I'm going to see what it looks like in my corridor. So minus 0.75 down, 1.04 up. I'm okay with this. So we'll close this. We'll close this. And I'm going to pause the video momentarily and fix that surface. Okay, the surface is being fixed. It was causing me a bit of lag because it was modeling contours all the way to 0. I didn't have any design information over here, so that's why Civil 3D was doing that. Now, we've got our design, we have our existing. If we are done with this line, we can delete it now, but I'm just going to leave it temporarily. We will need it again, more than likely. Roads, they adjust up and down. Our first design is never the perfect one. So coming back to our corridor now, we need to go and add this into our corridor. But for that, we need additional assemblies. So the way we need to tell the knuckle to build, we need to specify this section of road as its own little assembly. So we need to specify that one separately. And then we need to specify the knuckle one separately. So this ends up giving us quite a few more assemblies in our drawing. So to run through them, and these are the ones that will be needed for the intersection, for the knuckles, for the cul-de-sacs. Everything you need to do will be covered with these assemblies. So we start with our primary collector and our residential road. Now, I've taken the primary collector one and I've created a left side only. So it still has the lane here. We have a lane on the outside. Again, I didn't worry about lane widths. Civil 3D will take care of this kind of for us automatically. But we have our curb, we have our sidewalk, and our additional little piece at the end here for building off our grading. So don't worry about this additional piece now. Just build your curb and your sidewalk lines. And I also have the exact same one for the right hand side. So we got our curb, our sidewalk. And again, when you're making these, name them properly. If I go into the properties tab, select it again, primary collector, and I've just named it daylight right, primary collector daylight left. So we have 4 assemblies here. We have 4 more. So name things properly. When we get into that corridor properties window, it's going to help you immensely. We need our residential road right side only. So I've just copied that one, deleted the stuff on the left. We have our road, our curb, our sidewalk. We have our residential road left only. And ignore this warning symbol and pay attention to the right hand side. Now we need this for the cul-de-sac area. So when we're building the cul-de-sac area, Civil 3D doesn't quite do a good job because of the angles of the road, so we just need to trick it in. And then we have our curb returns right and left. So when Civil 3D builds an intersection, it will use the right assembly. And depending what side of the road your knuckle is on, the direction of travel, you may use the right one for your knuckles as well. But with our road, we need the curb return on the left. So again, the center point of the assembly is right beside your curb and gutter. Here's our road lane, here's our curb and gutter, here's our sidewalk. Same with the left, curb return left. We have our road, we have our gutter, we have our sidewalk. And that is in the middle as well. So when we drew that knuckle alignment and profile, we will be using the curb return left to define that as a road. So this center marker will follow down that alignment, will follow down that profile. So we need to use 2 different assemblies here for that knuckle. We need our residential road right side only. So I'll go build one piece and then we'll take a look at it. And then we'll do our curb return for the knuckle. So back to our corridor. I'm going to select our corridor. Go back into corridor properties. The parameters tab. Now we want to modify the Taradale Way. So we have our west section. Then we have a blank empty area. So this is where I'll insert the right hand side only. Because direction of travel is from here all the way up, that's how we know it's our right hand side. So between these two, we need to right click, insert a region after. So we want to insert a region in here. I'm going to name it Taradale Way West Knuckle. And my assembly is Residential Street Daylight Right. We'll click OK. I'm going to set the frequency of this to 5, just so we can see what's being built. And I'm going to hit apply and rebuild to make sure I've done it correctly. So because I've specified that right hand side one, it's only building from the center to the right hand side of the road. Now if I hit OK, my surface will update. So now I'm going to go back into corridor properties. Now this is where it starts to get a little bit tricky. We're going to have more baselines. We're going to have more regions for our knuckles. So for this knuckle, I need to add another baseline. I'm going to name it West Knuckle. And my alignment will be the West Knuckle. So I'll click OK. My vertical baseline, West Knuckle Design. I'm going to right click, I'm going to add a region. I'm going to name this just West Knuckle again. Now, the curb return fillets. So when we define this, I set it up for the left would have our sidewalk on it, the right would have our sidewalk on it. Now again, direction of travel, 0 is here, 44 is here. So we want curb return fillets left. And I'm going to click OK. And I'll hit apply to make sure I've done it correctly. Rebuild. And again, the reason it's truncating this is our frequencies. So for this west knuckle, make sure you select the right thing. I'm going to set these to 1 meter. And I'll rebuild it so it just looks a little bit nicer. Did I not hit rebuild? There. So I've rebuilt it now. And it looks a lot nicer. But what can we see Civil 3D not doing? It's not building anything in the middle. So if we hit OK and let it rebuild the surface, it will still pop up, but you have a very obvious error here. So if we go into corridor properties again, under west knuckle, there's one tab we haven't really played around with yet. That's the target tab. So I want the road piece to target something. I want it to target my center line. So I'm going to select the target ... here. It opens up another little window. So this is the corridor target mapping window. So for widths and elevations, I've already specified those in my main road, so my Taradale Way. So my width target, I'm going to click on where it says none, and I'm going to find Taradale Way, and I'm going to add that in. So again, be very careful what you're selecting, and again, you can see why it's so important to name things properly. I'm going to hit OK. My outside elevation target, now I want the elevation at the middle, so where it hits the center line, to be the same as my original road. So I'm going to target the elevation target of 64th Avenue Northeast, or sorry, wrong one, Taradale Way, Taradale Way design. So I've defined horizontally target Taradale Way, but target Taradale Way design, so there's no bumps in my road. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit apply and rebuild. And as we see, the corridor has updated. So now if I click OK and I zoom in, it has now built me a surface, and it's matched the high points in the road. We have positive drainage to a low point right here. We can see from the contour lines that we have a low point right here. And again, just experience to know that this would be a low point. We could turn slope arrows on if we want. Now, we have some more truncated issues down here. So we could go into corridor properties, and I'm just going to set all my frequencies for 1. Again, be very careful if you decide to do this. So I'm going to set everything for 1. It should make me a nice, relatively smooth surface. A smooth corridor and a smoother surface. So that is how we define a knuckle. So we will build the other knuckle the exact same way. So that's our west knuckle. We would build the east knuckle the exact same way. As I already have the alignments and profiles done, I will just go and build that quickly. So I've turned them back on now. Go back into corridor properties. I'm going to run through this a little bit faster. So we have our west knuckle. We have our road. I want to insert a region after to build this knuckle. Residential road daylight right, and name it Taradale Way East knuckle. Okay. And I'm going to come down. I'm going to add another baseline. East knuckle. Make sure to set it for east. East knuckle design. Add a region. Curb return fillets left. east knuckle. Again, set all my frequencies back to 1 so I can see what's being built. Make this a little bit bigger. Set my targets for the east knuckle back to Taradale Way. And the center to Taradale Way Design. Make sure I actually clicked on that. We'll click OK. OK. Apply, rebuild. And if I've set all the settings up correctly, we'll have another knuckle. So we have our 2 knuckles done. Let's run through the cul-de-sac quickly. Again, I've defined the cul-de-sac. I've defined a low point in it. All the water should slope to the end of the cul-de-sac. I tried to match the slope of my cul-de-sac road, so 2%, or sorry, that's 2%, 0.95%. I've got these coming down at 1.3. Again, it's play around with it, try and see what works. So again, back in corridor properties, I'm going to add another baseline. You name it cul-de-sac. My cul-de-sac. Okay. Cul-de-sac design. Add my region. Cul-de-sac. Now again, where is 0? So my 0 is on the left-hand side here. It's going around this way. So I need curb return fillets, or sorry, residential road daylight right, I believe, for this one. We'll find out as soon as I click OK. So residential road daylight right. I'm just going to hit apply to make sure I've got the right one. And I do not. So residential road daylight left. Apply, rebuild. And I selected the wrong one again. So curb return fillets left. Sorry about that. Apply, rebuild. Okay, let's just hit OK so it gets rid of the blue ghosting. All right. Go to our properties. I'm going to change my frequency again to 1. We'll hit OK. And my targeting, again, it's the exact same way as a knuckle. I want to target my cul-de-sac. Or sorry, that is the wrong one. I want to target Taradale Place. So that's my Taradale Place alignment, centerline alignment. And my Taradale Place design. We'll click OK. We'll click OK. Apply and rebuild to make sure it's correct. And I might need curb return fillets right. And if we hit OK, it is not targeting the center line. So let's go diagnose that. Corridor properties, target. I thought I filled these out. Maybe when I switch things around, it got rid of them. So Taradale Place. Taradale Place design. Okay, okay. Apply, rebuild. There we go. And we now have our cul-de-sac. So again, there needs to be a little bit of tweaking done on the vertical alignments in order to provide positive flow, but everything generally right now drains to the south end of the cul-de-sac. So in this video, again, we created our main roads, we did a couple knuckles, we did a cul-de-sac. And again, if you're not into naming things properly, this is when you're going to get into trouble. Everything in here is named nicely. I know what it's doing. I can update this. I know what I've selected on. I've named my items properly. I've kept myself straight. I know what each item is. I know what each item does. And again, it takes a little bit of practice to get into this and know how to do it. But naming things right off the bat is going to be your saving grace here. So we weren't able to get into the intersection tool in this video, so that'll be another video. There's a little bit more we have to worry about. We're going to create 3 additional corridor pieces. We don't want to add them all into this main one. So for intersections, watch the intersection video.